streaming. I believe we're live. All right. Okay, hang on. I gotta get that out of the way. Okay. Would you say something, please? No, I'm not. Would you say something else? Now say something. Whoops, try it again. Now say something. I am not. Say something. Darn. I can hear you. Problem is that it's not being picked up on the stream. Well, let me know what time it is, please. Okay. Hi, folks. We are struggling with the usual issues of desktop audio. Testing. Now try something. I don't think that is it. And I don't know. Try again. Okay, hold on. Input capture. Testing. Okay. Well, this is frustrating. Hang on, we're going to figure it out. Was that somebody? All right. Hang on. New. Let me get out of full screen. Okay, hold on. I need to get out of Telegram. Now I need to get back to this. Okay. And I need to get back to slide view mode. Slideshow mode. Now somebody is trying to send me a message. Alright. Okay. Exit full screen. Okay, boom. Now, slideshow and presenter view. View full screen. Okay, I'm back. Alright, but hello, hi folks. We are getting started. We're having some little problem with the audio not if anybody's there, would somebody say something in chat, please, and say hello. And then also, yeah, Simon, would you try saying something? Yeah, testing. Oh, audio. Testing. Say something, please. Okay. With any luck. No, you're not audible. Hey, Celeste. Hey, can you hear Simon? Simon, if you'd say something, it'd be helpful. Okay, alright. So I am going to figure out where the heck audio output here. Active. Hey, would you say something? No. This is crazy. My apologies, folks. Let me see if I can. Why is testing? Okay. I'm going to try something here. Hey, Simon, say something now. No, that didn't fix it. Oh, this is killing me. Okay. Testing. No. Say something. Testing. Can you say something? Bless you. Oh, crap. Say something now. Okay. Um, uh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Audio. Testing? Try. Now try it.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I think that worked.
Yeah, it worked, it worked.
Yeah? Okay, boom. All right, my apologies. We had a bit of technical problem getting started, but now we're here. Welcome this evening, if welcome's the right word, to our presentation on the recent executive orders by Donald Trump. I want to give a greeting to everybody who's there on the Gulf of America. I'm glad you're with us. Celeste, if you'd let us know that you now can hear us, that would be cool.
Hey, Celeste, and everyone else, I hope you can hear us.
Now that we've solved our problems here, we hope. Okay. All right. So, all right, there were a bunch of executive orders here that were supplied. Sorry, Simon, I'm going to move you over for a moment. Hey, if somebody in the chat would let us know that you can now hear Simon, that would be really cool. Simon, you say you're monitoring on another device? Or?
Yes, and I
okay.
Yes.
All right, there is an echo, but okay.
Let me do this. I think it's coming from my gadget since I was.
Yeah, why don't? Actually, it's not. Simon, would you? Simon, would you say something? Are you willing to say something?
Yes. Can you hear me? And I hope the echo has.
Okay, I think the echo is gone now. All right. Okay, so we're back to doing what we're doing. Okay, great. All right. Welcome. I'm Ann Ogborn, and I'm the director of Trans Rescue. With me today is Simon Naganga, who is our corporate attorney. And we've been following Trump's executive orders closely. Simon, I think I'll take it over to you to explain what an executive order is.
Okay. Hello, thank you, and welcome everyone on board. So we are going to look at the bit of yesterday's inauguration, that is to do with the executive orders that were signed, and basically we're going to focus on key executive orders that were signed. Key of them, of course, is the executive order with regards to defining women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government, which directly touches on transgender individuals. So to begin with, we're going to look at what an executive order is. And ideally, an executive order is an order made by the president, and it's directed towards state agencies and
Federal agencies.
federal agencies. Yes. And the purpose of one of the main key purposes of an executive order is to ensure that their policies of these federal agencies are aligned to the order. Also, another key aspect of an executive order is that it sets the agenda in the development of policies by these federal agencies. However, in ranking executive orders, even though this is not very clear, they definitely rank lower to legislation and other existing laws. And nonetheless, the president has powers to, issue these orders, and in some cases, he's expected not to overstep his or her mandate when making such orders. And mostly such orders are made where an existing order exists, basically to repeal that order and replace it with a new order. For instance, the order touching on transgender that was issued by the president yesterday clearly indicates that it has vacated orders that were previously put in place, including executive orders that were signed by the president himself when he was sworn in 2016, and the executive orders issued by President Biden between 2021 and 2023. It's of course more vague. For instance, by reading through the executive order issued yesterday on transgenders, some of the sections and provisions are not clear, and they require to be interpreted further, and also to be specific for them to derive a meaning. And if you also look at such orders keenly, most of the parts are directed to state agencies to look at legislation, bring in legislation to that effect, and define specific items that the president wishes to have them put in a specific way as per the order. Also, these orders may direct for the development of legislation, and by looking at the order again that I'm citing since I started this, the president has directed the Attorney General to prepare legislation to be codified with respect to what he intends to achieve with the specific executive order. Before we move to the next slide, maybe Annie had something to add to that effect.
No, I guess I would say an executive order is the things the presidents can do just by saying so. Much as the CEO of a business can say, okay, we're no longer going to use these plastic cups, we will now use paper cups. And then depend on whoever buys the cups to start buying paper cups. In the federal government, of course, many things are not directly in control of the president. He has to persuade Congress to pass legislation. Okay. So these orders are enabled in the Constitution by Section 1, which vests executive power in the president, and Section 3 that that makes the president a law enforcement officer, that makes the president responsible for seeing that the laws are, as it says, faithfully executed. I think it is dubious whether Trump is faithfully executing laws, but that, in fact, is a political decision. Do you have anything to add, Simon?
Yep, maybe I can point out that based on these definitions, or rather where we can find the provisions empowering the president to issue executive orders under Article 2 of the Constitution, even though as provided under Section 1, where the president has all executive power, it's not clearly outlined what an executive power is as per the Constitution, and that leaves room for different interpretations by different schools of thoughts, and therefore that's where the bone of contention comes in with regards to what's the effect of an executive order. Can it bucket, existing provisions of the law, as we're going to see in the slides below? Thank you.
So, Mr. Trump, our president, has issued over 100 orders, over 100 executive orders on day one. I would point out that this is normal. Almost all presidents issue some number of executive orders on day one. However, this is an unusually large number, and they are unusually sweeping. They cover a very wide range of topics, but the one we've picked out, the ones that are most relevant to trans people. Reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service is effectively undoing the civil service. The United States has a long history of jobs within the federal government being given out on the basis of political loyalty. People are rewarded for doing favors for politicians with federal jobs. In order to cut down some of this cronyism, the United States implemented a civil service in which the employees in the federal government are hired and promoted based on a fairly rigorous process compared to, say, a private business where they can hire someone just simply because they like them. And Trump is considerably weakening that. And Simon, jump in if you have something here.
Not really, with regards to that.
So, the next one that's relevant is ending radical and wasteful government, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and preferencing. This apparently is undoing a large part of the social progress legislation that has been part of America ever since the civil rights movement of the 1960s, and has hey R, if you guys have questions, just stick them in. We're happy to take questions as this go along. We're kind of expecting this to become a discussion as we go along. So it looks like Trump is rolling back an awful lot of that. I think most of us are familiar with the right-wing mantra of woke and this right-wing beliefs that people are promoted based on characteristics like their sex, their race, and their sexual orientation. And in fact, this severely rolls back many of the civil rights programs. Next is that Trump is withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization. This is going to drastically weaken the pressure which the WHO and hence external countries could put on Trump not to treat us badly. For good or bad, we are often seen as people who have a medical condition. And then the most devastating one is defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. And we'll be spending the majority of our time discussing that one. Questions about the others before we discuss the last one? So this is just as bad as its title makes it sound. It is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. They are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. This is direct quotes. That's a direct quote taken from the language of the executive order. I would remind you, this is an executive order. It's not law yet. However, agencies can start tomorrow using that as the basis of their policy. So, for example, you're going to see non-binary options disappearing from government forms almost immediately. There is a definition of gender ideology, which is which anybody who's been online will recognize this notion that being trans is somehow an ideology. Gender identity is defined in a way that makes it largely meaningless. It's defined as an internal sense of oneself, which is completely subjective and not verifiable, and not an important distinction for identity. And then it says that women are biologically distinct from men. And Simon, comments about this?
Sure. With regards to these provision under the policy, it basically provides definitions of who a man is, who a woman is, what sex is, and within that section, there is a requirement that these definitions be codified into law, meaning that other definitions with regards to what sex is shall be meaningless, and the only definitions to be followed upon codification or legislation under the law shall be the meanings as provided by this legislation, by this executive order. it's going to be chaotic because, firstly, the laws will be saying something different from what has been implemented previously, based on sex and what gender is, and what have you. So it's going to be interesting to see how that is enforced. Additionally, different states have different definitions of what gender and sex is, and for third, it means therefore that there's going to be a disparity between what the federal government through its legislation defines sex as compared to the state legislation on the same issue. So it's something we're going to look at keenly and definitely observe as this happens, because it should be in 30 days, and of course we're going to follow up on what happens eventually and what that means.
So, Simon, does that mean then state laws about things like bathroom access are going to be forced to use this definition?
I don't think so, because the federal government cannot twist to the state governments to adopt its legislation, especially when the legislation are not saying the same thing. So again, unless, as I was saying previously in media reports, where the government was saying that it is going to withhold funding for states that refuse to comply by the directives issued by the government. So unless now they go ahead and twist these states, the states are not required to abide by such provisions of legislation, especially where the legislation is against what is legislated within the specific state.
All right, questions from our audience? How people doing out there? Okay. There are also a variety of just flatly anti-trans measures. Now, government issued this is probably the most important point for those getting out of the United States. Government issued identification documents, passports, visas, etc., must reflect the holder's sex. And then and we'll return to that subject. The government is directed to pull a whole bunch of documents that are essentially everything trans positive they've ever printed. They also are essentially prohibited from promoting gender ideology, which basically means a government imposed rule of transphobia. And spending federal funds on trans health care is canceled. That's not going to happen. So, for example, veterans who are receiving their health care through VA, or anybody on disability has just lost their health care. HRT. The executive order also is also parrots the TERF agenda. There is a lot of TERF language like sex-based rights and single-sex spaces, and these things that are straight out of the TERF playbook. in the executive order. This executive order directs all federal employees to enforce laws governing sex-based rights. It's not clear what that means. It's not clear, for example, whether any of us can use the bathrooms in national parks as of today. Now, the next thing is that it directs agencies to re-examine their interpretation of the Supreme Court decision in Bostock v. Clayton County, which significantly allowed trans people access to gender congruent bathrooms and participation in sports. So this is a significant blow. It directs that trans women shall be held in men's prisons. This is going to be absolutely devastating for women in the correctional system. Fortunately, this is the federal correctional system, which is not where most people are. There is a very weird entry that removes trans women's access to single-sex rape shelters. I believe they intended to mean domestic violence shelters, but we're going to see what that means in practice. And then there's ensure the freedom to express the binary nature of sex and the right to single-sex spaces, which sounds very much like we are all free to express our love and appreciation of the dear leader. Comments, Simon?
I'd say, firstly, I was thinking about this as you were presenting, and bulk of these are just blanket, statements, especially on matters that don't fall directly under the purview of the president or the federal government. For instance, with regards to holding, trans women in men's prisons, that's under the purview of the president or the federal government, only in relation to federal prisons. Unfortunately, where we have state majority, Republican majority states, there is a likelihood that they're going to align their policies and legislation with the interests of the president, probably to please him, and all that. But there's going to be, a challenge in implementing some of these proposals as stipulated in the executive order. Maybe I can also mention about Bostock versus Clayton County. This is a matter that basically speaks about discrimination against gay persons and generally the LGBT community. I don't know how an executive order can vacate the judgment of a court, the decision of a court. In addition, if you actually look at the executive order, the president directs the Attorney General to offer or give a proper interpretation of the decision in this Bostock versus Clayton County, because in his own view, the president says that the judgment is being interpreted erroneously. I don't know how they're going to interpret it correctly, but and at the same time, I don't know how they're going to vacate the position as decided by the courts in Clayton County case. So these are some of the key issues that are not clear as per the executive order. And just to mention this, when drafting laws, legislators are required to be specific. You go to the very detail. You don't just leave it blanketly hanging. You have to be offer up to the last detail, so that when it comes to interpretation, there is not going to be a challenge as regards to what you meant when drafting that legislation. And in any case, it's retrogressive, and it's going to be subject to litigation, probably spend a whole 2 years or even 5 years litigating the matter all the way to the Supreme Court, so that you can get a proper interpretation of what that specific law says. So this is, in my view, and in the view of any illegal drafter, that a probably hurried executive order that does not give proper details on the specifics of what the president wants done, because it just comes from here, goes all the other way around, and it's a collection of ambiguities put together as a document. Disgraceful, I'd say.
Simon, a question: to what extent can we expect these all of this to be implemented slowly, because it'll all face legal challenges?
Firstly, under the executive order, the president requires federal agencies to offer updates on the implementation of the provisions of the executive order, unless something falls directly under the purview of the president. I don't see them having an easy time trying to implement all this, because some of the things are clearly not under the control of the executive. For instance, towards the very end of the order, they speak about aligning educational material with the executive order, especially material that had items to do with transgenders, the IX, gender and all that, and also some materials that had the Bostock versus Clayton County put in that, and some guidelines directly put forward to students with regards to transgender issues. Those are probably some of the things that they might achieve in the 120 days by aligning them as per the order, basically, doing away with all information that was related to transgenders and everything in relation to the LGBT. Of course, as regards issues to do with the prisons, say for example, for federal prisons, they are going to achieve that, of course. As regards the definitions that should be codified into law in 90 days, in 30 days, sorry. Well, they're going to achieve that, but what will be the effect on that in relation to other existing federal laws? In addition, I am sure that many rights groups are going to court to challenge not only the order, but any implementations arising from the order. So it's going to be a tough time trying to implement the whole executive order, but some of the bits that directly fall under the purview of the president are definitely going to be implemented as soon as yesterday.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Everybody doing good? Okay. The bill or the order does does address some of how this will be implemented. This is currently just an executive order. However, we're expecting a bill to follow it, and that bill will be presented to Congress, and the Office of Legislative Affairs has 30 days to draw that bill up. I'm sure that the bill is sitting somewhere in a file cabinet right now. That's also every agency head is expected within 120 days of today to report on their progress implementing this order. Sorry, I cut it in an awkward place, that object shall address, etc. So that's what we're seeing. By the way, I should tell you where you can read this whole thing if you're interested. On whitehouse.gov, there's a section for executive orders, and then it's right there on the first page. So if one has a passport with sex matching the gender identity, is it safe to leave the U.S.? It certainly is safer than staying. As of now, yes, it is safe to leave the United States. You are carrying a valid document that was issued by the federal government. And, this touches on a good point. For example, my own passport says I am female, and I'm here in the Netherlands, and the U.S. government can say that my passport is no longer valid, but I've still got the thing, and I doubt very seriously they're going to show up at my door and attempt to get it back. So, are the Dutch going to continue to take it? Good question. But I would say certainly it is far safer to leave now than to try to stay. We don't know what will happen once this all gets implemented. Simon, what's your take on that question?
I agree with you. But again, as we were discussing earlier in the morning, we mentioned that laws do not apply retrospectively. To mean that if, for instance, you obtain a passport with a marker X on your gender, and a law comes in saying that all passports effective, of course the law takes effect on the day it is assented to, the bill the day the bill is assented to into an act, that's when it takes effect. So if it says that moving forward, all passports shall only bear the marker M or F, it does not mean that your 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 passport is illegal on the face of it. That's when now the concept of savings and transitions comes in, and basically you cannot just wake up one day and say all passports with a marker X or all passports that should be M and F are effectively, illegal from today. It does not work that way. So they have to give time for you to probably renew your passport, or maybe deliver it to surrender it to the government and get a new one issued to you. But in most instances, the likely thing they do is tell you that the moment your passport expires, you're now supposed to get it with the correct marker in line with the law as legislated as per that specific day. So that would be my position on the same. And in the event that they really want to, take away such passports and declare them illegal, they need to give time, at least 6 months, for you to renew your passport and get a proper passport, a legal passport, as they would want to call it.
So R asks, I'm not likely to be able to leave until July or so due to finishing education. Would having a master's in public health help boost my likelihood of immigration to some countries' skilled workers program? It certainly would. However, of course, that you have to offset with that with the danger with your perception of how much danger you're in staying in the United States until then. So that's going to have to be your call, and it's going to have to depend on how quickly you think this will all clamp down. I understand your conundrum, but I would encourage you to consider your safety as well as finishing up your education. There are certainly many places you can go as an American, but who wants to interrupt their master's program? So it's in particular, as Simon's saying, I think that people are going to have a passport for a while. And when they do say you can only get a passport, they're probably going to say you can only renew your passport. It looks like they are not going to attempt to seize people's passports if they are if they have existing validity. That appears to be what I'm reading into this. Is that what you read, Simon?
Yes.
So it looks like if you have your passport, or do you have your passport in your gender identity gender? And is it in your dead name? Okay, I'm going to go on here. So, I'm going to return to this, probably the most central part for us is this Secretary of State and Homeland. I'm waiting on my passport and passport card to come in the mail. My name has changed and so has my marker, but my state ID doesn't have an updated marker. Type restrictions in a red state. That's fine once your passport is once your passport arrives in the mail, you should be in good shape. I'm assuming you did not ask for an X marker. If you asked for an M or F marker, then you probably are okay. M. Okay. Then you're probably all right. But it looks like they're going to stop issuing these soon. I certainly would suggest you sit by the mailbox. And let's hope that your passport's far enough along in the process that it hasn't gotten stopped. Because presumably they will very rapidly stop processing change of gender marker on passports.
Sure. I think when R gets his passport, please make a point of letting us know so that we can see, how far they are with implementing these radical.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Please do. Please drop us an email or a note on Telegram or Mastodon or however, and let us know what day you applied for your passport and what day it came and whether or not you successfully changed your marker. Simon, I think I'll start asking people on Mastodon to report that to me.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of what we've figured out as of this moment. On 120, mine's approved so far. Okay. Wait, 113. Yeah, 120 is yesterday. So you probably have a few weeks. Did you get expedited? Did you get expedited service? Yeah, expedited service, normal mail. That's probably good. Yeah, it's quite unclear what's going to happen. I think that any step to cancel passports is going to become very, very administratively cumbersome for the administration. And Trump will probably be told that. For example, like I say, I'm personally, I'm here in the Netherlands. I haven't been in the United States since 2018, and have no intention to return. Now, it's extremely unclear what happens when my passport expires. And when it does, I don't know quite what will happen. I must confess I am accelerating my steps to become a Dutch citizen for just that reason. Because I don't know how long it will be. I must say, amongst our non-U.S. passengers, we have a large number who, for one reason or another, do not have access to a passport. And it's a very inconvenient thing for all of them. Either they were forced to flee without their passport. In some cases, they were forced to flee without their passport, and their home state is not cooperating in providing them a replacement. In some cases, they are facing administrative hurdles. In some cases, they cannot appear at their embassy to obtain a replacement because being transgender is illegal in their home country under either on its face or under some cover like terrorism, and they cannot, if they appear, they'll be arrested. So we have another number of people, and it does make their lives quite awkward. So because they cannot travel. So I certainly am hoping that we do not end up with large numbers of American trans people in that position. There were large numbers of such people in that position after World War II. And they started issuing what were called Nansen passports. Those are no longer issued. There is a refugee travel document that can substitute, but they are poor substitutes for a real passport. Okay. Any other questions? I'm not seeing anything. Thank you all for coming. And good luck. We are around. We'll probably be holding more office hours and that kind of things over the next week or so, because people are trying to get out and we're aware of it. So thank you for coming, and thank you, Simon, for helping us with this. And we will see you all online, and hopefully we'll meet you all somewhere out in the wide world. Goodbye, everybody.
Before we leave, maybe I'd want to touch on the case in the very last slide.
Okay. Hang on. I will go to the last slide. Go ahead.
Sure. There is the case of Zim versus Pompeo. It's a it's a case from very back then when Obama was president, and Zim was was a Navy veteran, and Zim wanted to have his passport to have the marker X because he was non-binary. Unfortunately, the State Department refused to issue him a passport that does not have either M or F as the identification marker. So this prompted Zim to go to court, and the matter was litigated up to the Court of Appeal of the 10th Circuit. And in making a determination, the court directed the State Department to issue Zim with a passport that has the marker X rather than the M or F marker. So the point I wanted to drive by, mentioning this case is to show that the executive order in many instances is going against set precedences. For instance, the precedent in this case, and also the precedents are set out in the Bastock case, as discussed earlier, and to use, to issue the definitions as per the executive order directly goes against the determinations in these cases. And for that reason, because as we said while we were starting, there's no clear definition of what an executive order other than as provided for under Article 2, that's Section 1, and by extension Section 3. So these are matters that are definitely going to be litigated in court, and hopefully the court will give us a clear direction as to, the position of an executive order, especially when it purports to vacate the provisions of an existing law and the provisions as set out by determinations through the courts. I think with that also, that's going also to buy time, especially when the matter goes to court and we have injunctions stopping the implementation of the order pending the hearing of the matter. That's definitely going to buy time, and we'll also have a clear understanding of what the president intends to achieve. And also, I'd love to mention that these executive order and also the pronouncements that the president has been making since he started campaigning, he's never failed to mention the transgender community by saying that they're going to, they don't recognize them, they're going to destroy the community, they're going to take away all the, they're not actually privileges, they're just rights that are enjoyed by transgender people. And by saying he intends to take away these rights, it's a clear indictment on himself as a person who does not respect human rights, as a person who does not respect democracies. But nonetheless, we in for a long process of litigations and of course push and pull, and maybe as Anne has mentioned, probably this is the best time to leave the United States for your own sanity and for your own safety. Thank you.
Okay, folks, with that, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you for coming, and I guess we're done for the evening. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and goodbye.